Hello, Internet, and welcome to another special Parents Basement Quarantine edition of Ask Hua Li, the only place where you, a bunch of strangers, can ask me, a now jobless rapper, to summarize Google search engine results for you in a fun and accessible format. As always, I implore you to submit your questions to bit.ly/askhhuali. In the midst of Cancellation Fest 2020, I am breathlessly awaiting your questions, for they are the only thing that passes the long, lonesome days that I face as an extroverted lush in quarantine. Our question this time around comes from Notorious Shi, and they write, Dear Hua Li, I am a Chinese working artist trying to push through a white art world. I got fed up, tired, and I felt betrayed and compromised. How can I get back up and fight this bullshit again? Yours, Notorious Shi. Well, Notorious, I think this is a really fascinating question, and I want to advise you based on my own experiences navigating the Canadian music industry as a racialized artist. The first thing I think we should address is the question of burnout, which I think is the feeling that you're describing in your question. Burnout often occurs when we compromise too much of ourselves. It happens when we're overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and lacking validation. I think marginalized artists often suffer from more burnout because we face more obstacles than other artists. As such, I think it's really, really important for us to think about the strategies for which we can avoid burnout. Some things that have helped me in my professional life are having realistic expectations. I tend to overwork myself, and I think it's really, really important to start each day with some really, really tempered expectations for what's possible to accomplish in the time that you have. If you're someone that isn't able to support yourself 100% from your artwork, which is most of us, don't be upset with yourself if you can't get a full 8 hours day in on your art. That being said, it's really important to celebrate every single success that you have. Don't always be seeking external validation because it might not always be there for you. I think that holds true for all artists. Being able to experience some satisfaction in everything that you produce will allow you to have much more joy in your practice. I think it's also important to create your artwork with a personal cause in mind. That cause can be anything. Maybe you're a purely aesthetic artist and what you care about is the look or the sound of your work, and that's the priority for you. Maybe you're really political and you want your art to say something. Whatever it is, make it outside of yourself and give your art a greater purpose that you can work toward. On that note, Notorious, I think it's very important, especially for marginalized artists, to settle on some sort of authenticity in our art practices. I think because racialized artists often get tokenized, it's very easy for us to be put into a certain box and try to live up to the expectations that gatekeepers place on the type of output that we should have as artists. In that sense, I think it's important for you to investigate what it is that you're trying to say with your art and what truths you're trying to communicate with your practice. Even if you're embodying a character or doing something that's performative, those things can still be sincere, and it's important that you know what you're trying to say in your artwork. Because something that I think is really, really important for all artists is to identify who your gatekeepers are. What I can say is that gatekeepers often have a very bad reputation for good reason, but that some of them are out there to help you. Maybe those people actually have a mandate to represent marginalized folks. But I find a lot of time, really good allies in the music industry just happen to have a lot of marginalized people on their rosters, and they aren't necessarily advertising that. Something that was suggested to me by one of my trusted advisors that I now pass on to a lot of other artists is to make a list of, maybe about 10 other artists that are about 2 to 5 years ahead of you in your career that you really admire and strongly identify with. Then do some research to discover who those artists' key team members are. Usually this info is listed on their socials somewhere. So if you do some digging in some about pages or on their websites within contact forms, you'll be able to find the people that they're trying to direct the public toward. Then you should have a pretty healthy list of people that represent artists that are very similar to you in whatever artistic industry that you happen to find yourself in. Once you have that list, go ahead and solicit those people. Let them know in a very succinct and professional email what it is that you're up to and how you think you can mutually benefit from working with each other. then it's really important to just let go of your expectations. Remember, don't make your artistic practice about seeking external validation. Find the joy in your practice. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, because ideally making art should be a joyful and cathartic experience. Well, Notorious, I hope that this advice helps you navigate your industry, avoid burnout, and find the most enjoyment possible within your artistic practice. That brings us to the end of this installment of Ask Hua Li. But don't forget, I am here for you and your messy lives. So please submit your questions to bit.ly/askhwali. That's bit.ly/askhwali.